Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to KP. Annalise here. So Abba was leading me to go ahead and share another part to parent wounds. I want to say it's part 11, maybe part 12. I have no idea. But yes, make sure you test the spirit by the spirit. Make sure that you see if this word is for you, what parts are for you, and yeah, if it's right now word or a later word. Got a little cold, got a little chilly. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. We need to pan this. We need to pan this. Anyways, so thank you, Holy Spirit. First off, there is the caveat. So what I mean by that is to understand that no matter what anybody does to you, including your parent, does not give you the right to be rude, disrespectful, um, just flat out extra. It does not give you the right to do that in the space of you are still held to a standard, especially being called, especially being chosen, and especially being elite chosen. When it comes down to that, that just means that you are still supposed to adhere to the character and the commandments of God in the space of, hey, um, not only do you honor thy mother and father so that your days be longer, forgive 70 times 7, turn the other cheek, as well as what was that one? Um, that one, thank you, Holy Spirit, the space of judge not lest ye be judged, because you can't be talking about the the smite in their eye when you have a whole plank in your eye. And then also, these are all, I'm paraphrasing, these are all scriptures though. And then there's a one where it says it's easy to love the people that love you back. Evil people do that. They love people that love them. It's easy to do that. It's challenging. It's difficult for you to love someone or be loved in the midst of hate. For you to love someone that you know don't like you. The Judases, the Saul that was after David. Um, so when it comes down to that, it's a level of you're still held to a standard. You cannot sit there and use what you know as a means to react or respond in whatever way that you feel to react or respond. And the way that Abba was tying that together is that you have to understand how to not bark or buck up at everything that barks at you. Not only that, there's a level to understanding that Jesus knew who Judas was. Jesus knew what he was going to do. Jesus knew he was going to betray him. Yet he still let him ride with him, as far as in like go everywhere with him. He still gave him charge over the money, and then he still washed his feet and fed him. There's a level of understanding who your Judas is, still allowing them to be close enough to kiss you without you overreacting, not overreacting, excuse me, reacting or responding in a way that's like, I know who you are, I know what you've done, or I know what you're going to do, and basically just cutting them off, or being in this space of, how do you say, entitlement of like, okay, I know who you are, I know what you're going to do, so I get to treat you this way. You don't have that level of, how do you say, entitlement to do that. You're still held to a standard. They said the turning of the other cheek, honor thy mother and father. It does not mean bend over backwards. It does not mean be a people pleaser, performance, or imperfection. It does not mean that. It simply means that you give them respect. That's all. And it can be difficult because, even, as we talked about, disagreement or disagreeing, having something to say, or even in the space of what they consider bad behavior being seen as disrespect. And it's like, yeah. So it can be very difficult, but that doesn't mean you now change your behavior in the space of I'm going to be mean because they're mean, or I'm going to exclude them because they exclude me, or I'm going to talk about them because they're talking about me. All of these things. Like, no, you don't get to do that just because you understand what's going on. You are going to have to get to a level to be able to see and hear and know and not use that as a means to now act however you want to act. So with that being said, um, Abba was still leading me to go ahead and share this space. And this is part of understanding that it all ties together, as far as in how we were talking about your EQ being your present, because that's how you are regulating and articulating your emotions, and your EQ being your present, where your parent wound being your past, but your marriage and whatnot being your future, in the space of you having to go back to understand what's going on in your present, to then to allow it to be something that is better for your future. And so, excuse me, you get to understand how this all intertwines. So, yesterday, I've been having watching one of these K dramas that I was watching on Netflix, but because I don't have Netflix, I can't really watch it. But what you call, um, I was able to watch it yesterday, like one of the episodes, and so um, watching the episode, it was just speaking to me because I was already watching it, so I already know like what's going on and what's happening. And basically, it's these two twins. It's Mijay and Mirai, and they're twins. They look literally exactly alike. And um, what's happening is that basically there's something going on with Mirai, and Mijay doesn't know about it until she's trying to go and find her sister, but finds her sister ready to jump off of the building and basically unalive herself. In that, she saves her, and then after she saves her, she goes to find her because she's like, she took a walk or whatever. Excuse me. She didn't took a walk or whatever, so now she goes to find her, and she finds her on a bridge, which is okay. That's notorious for people also trying to unalive themselves, jumping off the bridge. So she's like, hey, 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 don't do that, don't do that. And she basically like gives her like the pinky, which was for them growing up. The pinky was a signifying of them switching places. So they switched places, and me, Jay, got to figure out what was going on in the world of me, Ray. And so, as they are living out each other's lives, me, Ray, is just finding a new breath in the space of the place that she ran from. But of course, she has to go back to the space that she ran to. Does it make sense? She ran from her home going to the city, but then she ran from the city going home, finding new birth in that's for somebody, finding new birth in back going back home, but knowing she has to go back to the city to face what she has to face. And so me, Jay, which is her sister that traded places with her and went to the city, she's figuring out like what's going on with all of this, and she's just like basically living her life in a way that is breaking her out of her shell. She's able to disguise as her sister. She's able to do things that she's not normally able to do, stepping out of her shell as herself. So it's healing her too. But the whole point in this space was Abba was literally highlighting to me the different aspects and the different spaces and places of how subtle things can be, because we think it's just this all out rah 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 type deal, and it's not. And that's one of the biggest lies, as we see when you're looking at like movies, you're looking at TV shows. You can know who's the bad guy, you can know who's the good guy. And some of the good movies, you can't really tell if he's a bad guy or is a good guy. You know, good girl or a bad girl. You can't really tell. Some of these better movies, you can't really tell. But for the most part, you have the demons that are in the black with the horns and the pitchforks, and then you got the good people in the light, or like, with angel wings and blue, and you know what I'm saying. It is clear in the space of, okay, this is the light, this is the dark, this is the good, this is the bad. um it's very clear, and that is a misconception that we have, because that is way more heavy than these more, how do you say, unorthodox movies or shows that, um, hey, they're not necessarily a good guy, but they're not necessarily a bad guy either. And then the ones that you would think are a bad guy are actually good guys, and the ones that you would think are good guys are actually bad guys. Um, so when they're coming up with these shows and kind of twisting that a little bit, um, I feel like there's way less of those, and there's way more of this space of like, hey, the good is this, the bad is that. This is what it looks like. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true. Um, Satan, I call him Puny Boy. Puny Boy and his minions, they are not as powerful as you. However, they're clever. Being that they're clever, there's a way that they show up. There's a way that they show up that is not in a way that you can recognize. Hence why we be getting tone whopped a lot of the time. Um, Help me, Holy Spirit. So, with that being said, in the space of us basically getting our butts handed to us, it's because we're not recognizing how Puny Boy is coming. We're not recognizing how the enemy is coming. We think he's gonna show up with all red, red horns, with the little what you call tail, like the little kid from, what's his name, from Cow and Chicken, with the little what you call tail. We think he's gonna come like that, looking like, hey, I'm trying to get you, or hey, I'm trying to kill you, or hey, I'm trying to steal from you, or oh, I'm trying to destroy everything you got. We think like he's gonna show up like that, and he don't show up like that. He waits like a roaring lion. In that, when you see a lion, he's not, when you watch the wildlife shows, they're not sitting there like, hey, all out in the open, just like, oh, I'm gonna get you. And then they jump at the elks and the zebras and whatnot. No. They wait in a space, especially if they have like tall grass they can wait in. They wait in the grass and they creep up on you where it's like you're taken by surprise. And that's a lot of times how we be getting taken out. Look, I'm not no exception. I am not no exception. Do not put me on no pedestal, no nothing. Because look, no, I be getting tone whopped too. I be having bad days too. I be sitting here, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. In that space, there's a level of just understanding. It's not coming in this way of like, oh, this is this and that is that. No, it don't look like that. And so a lot of times when it comes down to these things of like, um the parent wounds, where they're like really using this space of shame and guilt to basically say, hey, they're your parent, that's the only parent that you have, like that's the only mother you have, that's the only father you have, you know, um they've done so much for you, they've sacrificed so much for you, all of the things. When they you know push that so heavy, it's this space of like guilt tripping and shame shame tri- guilt tripping, shame tripping, all of the things. It's this level of condemnation that they kind of like push and put on you, for you to basically feel bad. And it's like, you as the child, you couldn't do anything about that, especially when you were a child. And all of us fall short sometimes. None of us have life mapped out. Life is not perfect. And life definitely has those curveballs. It's not the game called life. There's a game, I don't know if y'all played it. There's a game actually called life where you kind of map out how you're going to live your life. um and we think it's going to happen that way. We're going to go to school, we're going to go to school for whatever we want to do, whether that's a nurse, a biology major, whatever it is, a chemist, firefighter, not firefighter, sorry, but that's for somebody, um, a neurologist. I'm gonna be a lit major. There's all these different things that you can get degrees in as far as in universities go, and you think, okay, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna go ahead and finish out my term. I'm gonna get my degree. After I get my degree, I'm gonna make sure that I land a job, and after I land a job, I'm gonna make sure that I get a house, and after I get a house, I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have kids, and then I'm gonna have grandkids, and then I'm gonna retire, and then it's just gonna be this happily ever after. That's how we think it's gonna go, this step by step. We don't understand that there's all these different curveballs in the in between. Hey, we lost the house. Hey, we lost the car. Hey, um stuff got tight and we lost the job. Hey, they done laid off what you called, or maybe they was doing something sketchy and everybody got furloughed. um we don't take into account these things, or like, hey, the scholarship didn't come through, so I wasn't able to finish out my term in going to school, or school got very hard and I didn't think it would be that much of a workload, but it was way more of a workload than I was expecting. um I didn't have enough scholarships to do this is that and though. I didn't have enough resources to do this is that and though. I tried my hardest, I studied and did everything that I could, but then I kept failing. Like, all my grades were just bad. you know um I met someone, and things kind of just got a little too hot and heavy, and I ended up pregnant, and now I have a kid, and I don't know what to do. um you know Even as the males, like, hey, I didn't slipped up, I didn't got this girl pregnant, but I don't know what to do because I don't know the first thing about taking care of a kid. I don't know how to take care of myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all of the things that it's just life's curveballs, and it's not even really curveballs. We're just not taking it back to Abba for Abba to help us to see, because when Abba is with us and we're allowing Abba to minister to us and overflow in us and overtake us to know whose we are and who we are, there's a level of how do you say, seeing it from a certain perspective that you are able to branch out of, you're able to get out of, you're able to see from, in a way that, okay, that person's not good for me. I'm not going to that party. I'm not eating that. Okay, they're going to be how do you say, laying people off. Okay, Abba's already had me building this other business, or Abba's already had me moving over here to this other space or place where there's another job or there's more provision. Um, the scholarship didn't come through, but Abba already had this grant that was coming through for me that he told me to fill out, that's coming through, where I'm able to go ahead and finish that. Abba also had it to where, okay, I was able to get tutoring, and I was able to use some other resources that were outside of my school because maybe my school didn't have it, and I was able to use that in order to make sure my grades stayed up, and I was able to go ahead and finish out that term and get that degree. I was able to even though maybe I still messed up and I still was able to, I still got pregnant and I had the kid, or maybe I got somebody pregnant and I still had the kid. um you know Abba made it so that I was able to get this job and make sure that I was able to save and do this and move this around to make sure that I had all of this to take care of everything. You see what I'm saying? There's a level of subtitle, there's a level of this way that we, thank you, Holy Spirit. There's a level or a way that we um think things are gonna go, and it just doesn't turn out that way because we have it in our brain, and we think that, okay, because it happened the way that we want it to in our brain, it's going to happen that way outside. Not taking factor into anything else, any other factors, any other people, any other things that may go on. None of that. And a lot of the time it's gonna be puny boy that's sitting there tampering and messing with little things. um Thank you, Holy Spirit. He's bringing to my attention Anastasia. Anastasia, where those little green minions, they were trying to make it to Paris, and they started off, um I believe it was on a boat, but the boat, like, there was such rocky winds and whatnot, and she almost fell off the boat because the minions who were basically leading her off, as far as in off the boat. They were trying to take a train, but the minions separated the train, trying to blow it up, and then they tried to blow up the bridge for the train, but they ended up jumping off. You get me? Like, Abba always makes a way out of no way, and he's always protecting you. But you also got Puny Boy and his little minions that are like little green things that are trying to sabotage everything. And we think that it's just coincidence. We think that it's just this space of like Murphy's Law they talk about, like anything that can happen will happen, whatever that is. um and they talk about it like that, and it's like, no, there's a real enemy out here, and he's trying to unalive you. He's trying to get you. He's trying to take things from you. He's trying to destroy things so that you aren't stepping into the calling and the light that you were born with, and that you were created with, in order to not only um bring heaven to earth, but to set people free. Set people free out of these chains. And so, saying all of that to say that it does not come in this way that's just raw and in your face. It does not come like that. It's not, it comes in very subtle ways. And the ways that it comes in those subtle ways, you're not going to be able to recognize how they are unless you are able to have Holy Spirit to point those things out to you. And that's the reason he was bringing up that our un, I believe it's our unwritten soul or our written soul, um, with the little twins or whatever. That's why we were talking about that, because there's a level of subtlety that you would not understand. And that is one of the reasons why I love Asian dramas, because they don't just, how do you say, uh, grab things from the surface. They don't show things just from the surface. You're actually almost like in a deep dive. You know how they say, like, as an author, to kind of like, when you have a relatable, immersible character and you're literally rooting for the character, that is how every single K drama is. There has not been one, not a one, that I've watched where I'm not like immersed in the story, immersed in it to the point that it's like you're able to see and understand all of the different angles and aspects of what is going on. So in this one, you got Mirai, who switches places with her sister Mijay. Now Mijay, she's getting kind of caught up with everything. She doesn't know what's going on, and she doesn't know the big thing that's going on. And so there's one of their childhood friends that they have that's in the city with them, and he is, how do you say, he's a childhood friend, but he's had this, um it's not a disease. He was in a car accident, and being in a car accident, it messed up, like, I believe, like the left side of his body, and it also created these burns and scars on his body. And their culture is very big about having like scars and whatnot on you. They're very big about that. So there's like, they have certain, what you call it, a medicine, so that your skin and everything is clear and you don't have any scarring and whatnot. They're very big about that. So he's kind of like almost outcast and made fun of because he can't um walk or do everything that everybody else does. He's not necessarily, he can't walk, but the accident caused it to where he had to kind of rehabilitate his arm and his leg. But of course that took a toll on him as a teenager being in high school. And of course he's kind of made fun of. They're like, hey, he can't do it, he can't make it. Like, he's made fun of, he's bullied, and all of these things. And there's a level of like subtlety where it's like you wouldn't know it if you weren't able to see those flashbacks of like, okay, people not necessarily saying it out loud, but the way that they would giggle when he would come by, or the way that they would basically like be saying, "Oh, he'll take forever," or "We'll see him later." It's the subtlety in it. It's not always this blatant rah in your face. And then you got Mijay. Mijay, she lives with her mom, but her mom is so oblivious. The mom actually can't even tell the twins apart. And the mom is so oblivious that she doesn't even understand what Mijay is going through. In the space of Mijay, she's um, practicing for that civil servant thing that they have. It's a civil servant, what is it? It's like an exam. So the civil servant exam, but is supposed to be really challenging in the space of, even with the practice exam, you might get, passing grade on the practice exam and then get to the actual exam and fail it. And some of them take it over and over and over and over and over. And you could see that she was very much so struggling, just finding her identity, finding out who she was and whatnot, especially because her twin Mire was the one that was very studious, and she was very get good grades and whatnot. And so the mom kind of, how you said, had this kind of almost favoritism towards Mire, where she wasn't necessarily really it's kind of like that good behavior bad behavior type thing. When because Mire was getting in the good grades, and how do you say, uh being that good daughter in the space of getting good grades, and um doing what she was supposed to do, etc., etc., she kind of got that niceness, where Mijay was kind of just overlooked and overshadowed, almost like, okay, you don't do anything, you don't accomplish anything, so right, what do you want? And and she didn't necessarily do that so blatantly, but again, it's not about it being all rah rah in your face. It's a level of the way that she would just always talk about Mire, and she would always smile at Mire, and she would always just have a lot, how do you say, of like this level of just respect and um care for like her boundaries. But when it came to Mijay, it was just like, help me with this, help me with that. You need to go find a job. You need to get out the bed. You need to go do this. It was just, it's very subtle. It's not something that is just rah in your face. There's the whole point of this. The whole point of making this video is to show that it's not rah in your face. Now, here's the big doozy one, Mirai. With Mirai, you can see that she's actually going through something, but you don't really understand what she's necessarily going through. But then you begin to understand that she's actually going through a space where at the workplace there is this how do you say, these assault charges, the those assault charges um that she um spoke on. But because she spoke on it, especially as far as in it being in the workplace, she was shunned for it. So you can see where, because she spoke on it, everybody in the office basically stopped talking to her, gave her way more work to do, weren't inviting her out to eat, weren't inviting her anywhere, would purposely bump into her so that she would drop all her papers and had to like pick up her papers and then reorganize them. They would whisper and talk about her behind her back. They would literally just shun her, exclude her, all of the things. And where it was coming from was basically she didn't even do anything. Um, but because of the level of backlash that she was getting, she was starting to question whether she was the victim. Did she really not do anything wrong? She was questioning whether or not she like did anything to like lead him on, or whatever the case was. And she's questioning herself. And this is how we be as the as the children, in the space of really questioning, like, did we do something wrong? And then it's like, well, they did sacrifice for us, and they did make sure that I had clothes and I had food to eat. They did make sure I was able to buy school clothes. They did make sure I was able to do XYZ. And so you get this space of like condemnation and the guilt tripping and the shame tripping, and it's like you begin to feel bad. And when you begin to feel bad, it's like the whole cycle kind of starts all over again, because your boundaries are greatly broken, past just disregarded. You're treated a certain type of way. And again, it doesn't have to be this blatant, like, hey, in your face, rah rah. That's the whole point of this. It does not have to be blatant. So continuing with Mireille, she's the way that it happened was, there was this coworker, but the coworker literally was like the spitting image of her dad. When I say, he could have spit him out. And in the what you call in the show, like, they grew up with their dad, but eventually there was a space where the dad died. And the dad was the one that was basically like the close one to them and could tell them apart, just like the grandma could tell them apart, but the only one that couldn't tell them apart was the mom. And so you see this space of like, um the dad died, but of course in them the dad dying, they miss their dad. And so this guy that comes by, as far as in the coworker, he's just like the spitting image of him. It was just that kind of just took took her off guard, like, whoa. And then J playing Mireille, being at her job, recognized and was just like, I totally get it. Where her guard was down, not that she was just interested in him, but that, hey, he's the spitting image of her dad. She misses her dad. So there was this level of this guard being down, where she wasn't, I guess, not, she's thinking, okay, I'm not paying attention to the cues. And then he has a daughter named Mireille. So it just made it more complex. Again, there's this subtle way that it comes in. It's not this blatant raw in your face. And so he's he's basically like, um the trainer, though. He's not like just a coworker, he's the trainer. So he's training her, just as he trained another girl. And that was one of the things that you get to unfold in the story, that there was a girl that was there before, that was trained, and there was something that happened with the big boss, where he's like did something to her. And because he did something to her, she, said something about it, but in her saying something about it, that kind of just blew up in her face, where it was overlooked. And then again, she was shunned. They would turn their back on her. They wouldn't invite her out to lunch. They would make more work for her, basically during the day, making them do all the work that they should have been doing. They also made it so that you know they would talk about her. They would snicker about her. You know how you have those little work forums where it's like little employee chats or whatever, and it would be like certain things that they would say in the chat and whatnot, whispering certain things. They would laugh. They would kind of side eye. They would kind of just like turn the other way when she was coming, or get real quiet when she was coming. They would literally pile on work. When I say pile on work, they would pile on work for her. They would bump into her too, and make all of the papers fly off. And there was one time, like, she was having the work check, and he was just like, do it again. But instead of handing it to her, he literally just tossed all the papers and made them fly everywhere. So she had to get down and get them up. But you get what I'm saying. It's not this blatant what you call, you don't have to be blatantly putting your foot on somebody's neck, on a head, spitting on them, kicking them and whatnot in order for you to be doing that. It doesn't, it's not this all in your face. It can be very subtle like that. And so when you have Mirai, she's sitting there, how do you say, she's going through all of that, seeing this the trainer, the one who's training her now, um basically in the other girl's place, because the other girl ended up quitting and basically kind of just hibernating in her room. um so of course Mirai, being the new girl, she's being trained as that. But when she kind of like basically what happened is she's being trained, and the guy looked like her dad, and even her daughter, his daughter, excuse me, had the same name as her. And so there's a level of him like helping her out, where initially she's just treated like the newbie. And that's usually the space of like them still giving you more work, them still like making things a little bit hard for you and whatnot. You understand that dynamic, because I'm sure you've seen it. um um so yeah, they're like, she's like the rookie. When you're the rookie, it's like you got to do the errands, like going to get the coffee, going to get the little mundane stuff, making the copies, um passing everything out and whatnot. So she's still like, treated as this rookie. And in being treated like the rookie, because he's the trainer, he's helping her out in the space of like, they're piling on the work, so he's helping her with the work. He's making sure she gets a coffee, because they'll bring coffee but they won't bring any for her. Literally bring everybody a coffee, and she's sitting in the room and they don't bring her coffee. So he would give his coffee to her, or he would make sure that she had coffee, and he would make sure that he was helping her with the work that um she needed to get done, because they would pile on the work so that she was there like late at night. And in her being there late at night and whatnot, he would take some of the papers and whatnot and help her out with it. And in helping her out with it, um he it would be too late for her to be taking a bus or anything like that, so he would offer to take her home. So he would take her home. He would help her with work and everything, and then he would be bringing her coffees and everything. You see how that looks? You see how it looks? So then there was one time he got drunk and he misdialed. He said he misdialed. I don't know, but it looked like he was genuine, like he missed out. He was calling a person to you know, drive him, because they're very smart about that. Like, okay, if you can't drive, there's a app or what you call that, you can actually call a person to come drive your car and drive you home, so you're not driving home intoxicated or whatever. So he's like, I thought I called them, but I guess I called you. So she arrived like trying to help, and she got him in the car, and she was basically about to drive him home. And he fell asleep, or it looked to be like he fell asleep, and so she reached over to put his seatbelt on, but he took that as her trying to come onto him, and she freaked out, got out the car. And when she freaked out and got out the car, he got out the car and was like, I'm sorry, like, you can hit me, you could you can beat me, all of these things. And he's saying all of that while she's just freaked out, because she's just like, bruh, no, no, especially because it looks like her. He literally is a spitting image of her dad, and it's just like, what in the world? No, 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 not at all. And she's like, no, we're just coworkers and whatnot. But she was just basically like, um, we'll just let this go and pretend like nothing happened and just act as usual, which is them staying late, the carpool, the coffee. So she's acting as, he's starting to act weird. He's starting to act funny. He's starting to kind of inch away from her, all of these things, making it look like something that is not. And he even as she's continuing, she's like bringing him coffee and everything still. And um then it's just this level of awkwardness. Again, it doesn't come in this way that's just blatant, it's very subtle. So the way that is coming in, um it just looks like she's like trying to push herself onto him, even though he's a married man with a family. And because that's the way it looks, um it gets around in the little employee chat or whatever, and the wife gets wind of it because she used to work there, so she knows people there. And when she gets wind of it, she comes and basically makes this whole scene at the job, slaps her and everything. So now it looks extra like baby girl didn't do nothing. But you see how subtle that came, not only in the space of being a rookie, but also in the space of her saying something about it. Because after the wife did all of that, she was basically like asking him, like, bro, what is happening? What is going on? I thought we were just gonna do this business as usual, but you're making it seem like it's something that it's not. And he basically was like, your word against mine, basically. And with him saying that, um with him saying that it basically turns into this thing where now she's trying to like speak up for herself. So she's trying to press charges, but in the space of her trying to press charges and it getting out, now the company is pressing on her. And the company is pressing on her in such a way that they have these lawyers come in and basically are questioning her, question after question after question. But they're not, no, like, it's more of an interrogation. So what did you do to lead him on? They said you guys were carpooling. They said you guys were staying late. They said you continued to buy coffee after the incident and all of these things. And so it came to this point where it's like she couldn't answer. And so that's where she began to question herself, and she began to feel like, okay, did I really do something to like lead him on? Did I really just like not have my guard up? All of these things. And again, it's just that subtle way that it came in. You would think it's normal workplace, everybody just comes in, does their work. You would think it's normal little rookie stuff. Okay, she's getting more work because she's the rookie, she's the trainee. I don't think that's right, but it does train you up in the space of like you being able to not only how do you say work on your toes, but also for you to be able to, how do you say, know more about like the ins and outs of stuff. um because they don't be they be doing you dirty sometimes when it comes to rookies, but they don't be treating you that harshly. But you know what I'm saying, as far as in like it comes in very subtly. And so you see her where she's dealing with all of this all at the same time, while knowing that this other girl had went through it, and she was supposed to, like, I guess help with that as well and speak out on it, but she didn't. And so because she didn't speak out on it, and basically kind of just hid, um not going through with the charges and whatnot, because of the way that they interrogated her, the way that they came after her, because the way that they did that, the company, there was a level of like it kind of being brushed under the rug and being seen as, oh, she was trying to get out of it, in the space of, oh, she came on to him and she was trying to get out of it by making it seem like it was him. And that's how they played it. And because it was like, hey, you're carpooling with him, you're staying late with him, you're still bringing him coffee, like, what do you mean? Like, you let him on and you did this, that, and no. And so, um and again, she didn't do that. And this is hence in the beginning of the movie where she's trying to jump out of the window. And it's like all of that can take a toll, especially being shunned like that over and over and over again. And it's not just a space of, oh, just get a new job. Eventually it comes to that in the space of when they realize who they are, whose they are and who they are. Is And that's how it comes. When you realize who you are and whose you are, whose you are and who you are, you begin to walk differently. You begin to understand things a little bit differently, and you're not intimidated by those things. You're not intimidated by the way that, because the way that they shunned her, the way that they made more work for her, the way that they like pushed her, bumped her, the way that they would talk about her in the little employee chat and talk about her around. And you get that, you get me. It's that space of like the snickering, like you come in the room and then they just start snickering, or you come in the room and they're like and they start being quiet and they start turning their head and they start moving around different. You get me. it's subtle. It's not this space of like just all blatant in your face where they're like, hey, you did this, this, and this, and like, and most of the time you'd rather them do that when you're dealing with that subtleness, because the subtleness, it just it hits different. It hurts in a way that's just different. And so this is kind of just piggybacking off of that word we did, royal duty calls, because in the even in the space of that, it's not like, they're not providing for you. It's not like they're not making sure you have food to eat, clothes on your back, etc., etc. It's not like they're not doing these things, and it's not like they're treating you bad or blatantly bad where you have to now sit in the chokey, or you have to like um um what is it, stand on your knees. um what was it? It was, thank you, Holy Spirit. It's, I believe, honeybees or something like that. I can't remember the title of the name, or but it's with Queen Latifah, Alicia Keys, Dakota Fanning, and somebody else. But the girl Dakota Fanning, she had to basically stand on her knees, like, stand on her knees, but she had to stand on it on grits. So you had the hard floor, you had the grits, and she had to put her knees on the grits, and basically like stand up on her knees and sit on the grits like that. Um, you know, um, and this is not to say that that doesn't happen, because even with that movie, as far as in the Dakota Fanning, she was being like beat. Not only was she being beat, like, you know, the dad would get drunk and beat her like there's no tomorrow. And there's a lot of cases like that. There's a lot of, abuse and misuse like that. But, I'm definitely speaking to the ones that are not necessarily abused in that way, but they are kind of abused and misused in a way that's just very subtle. It comes in very just like real sneaky, like where it's not very blatant or obvious. It's kind of that shunning where you're just not included. um there's, they got what you call for everybody but you, or you weren't, oh, you wanted some, I didn't know. um oh, you don't need to lay around all day, you can go outside and get some fresh air, or you're free between this time and this time, so you might want to, like, get a job. um you know uh just it's just building on the ways that it like really makes you feel like a burden, makes you feel like you're in the way, and makes you feel like, you're not wanted, in the space of like nobody wants you around, because you costed me. And because you're costing me, it's like, bruh, you're a burden, get out of the way, because when you get out of the way, I don't gotta worry about you. um but it's very subtle, it's not blatant like, hey, get out. Now sometimes it does get to that point where it's like, yo, get out. um but other than that, it's still a very subtle thing, where it's still just making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel like a burden, making you feel unwelcome. And just like they were doing, and this happens not just in family dynamics and friend dynamics, it also happens in workplaces. And it's not just a space of like, hey, it only happens here or there. It happens in a lot of spaces. It even can happen, like, in marriages and whatnot. um there's a very subtle way that it comes across. And that's why Abba was bringing me this, how do you say, this perspective in bringing this word, because it showed greatly. If you can watch it, go watch it. It showed greatly just how subtle it could be. Like, baby girl would walk in the room and they would start snickering, or they would all turn around, or they would kind of give like side looks, like, they would, make more work for her, they would pile things on for her, they would make comments behind her back, they would make comments under their breath, but they weren't like, how do you say, rah about it. They just weren't. And it's a level of that where it's like you couldn't say that they were just being rude. No, I wasn't being rude, you didn't do it right, so do your work right. You get what I'm saying? It don't come in this way that's just Boo. And with that, it's the same when it comes down to this space of like the ones that I'm speaking to, especially the adult children that have had to go back to the parents' house because there's gems there for you to pick up. It's a space of it just being bigger than you and bigger than them. But there's still that subtlety in the space of like, hey, you're not welcome. You're a burden. Get out. But it's not blatantly saying that. It's saying it in a way where it's like, hey, they bought food, but all of the food is for someone else, or all the food is for everybody else, but you don't touch it because they're telling you don't touch it, but the food is there for anybody else. Um, the space where it's, hey, you might live in a place where you don't necessarily have a means to get around. Like, for example, in Colorado, you can get on a train, especially when you live in Denver. I'll speak for that because if you live in Boulder, you live somewhere else, you got to have a car. But if you live in a city and you live in Denver, you can get around like clockwork. When I say like clockwork, bruh, there's a bus that come every 15 minutes. You got a train that come every 10 minutes. As if you literally from here to the airport, like do 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 do. But in Georgia, you literally have to have a car to get anywhere. And what I mean by that is you could live in a neighborhood and there may be like, say there's a school and the school is 1.2 miles away. That will take you 2 to 5 minutes in a car, but it will take you 45 minutes to an hour walking. You get me? Like, it's not like, hey, you can just go to these places and it's close if it's 30 minutes. 30 minutes is close in Georgia. And you could even an hour is type close because everything is so spread out and stretched out to the point that you're normally getting the minimum an hour and a half you know to get to a place. Um and you could live in a space that doesn't have that transportation, like being in Colorado, or in living in a space that's like Georgia, where you have to literally have a car to go anywhere, even down the street. Now you can walk it, but that's going to take you 45 minutes to an hour. So you can go ahead and walk and have your little walk. But it's also you walking back. Um, you know, and so it's also a means of like everything not being necessarily close, because you might have the school there and you might have a gas station there, but there's not a park and a library. That park and the library is maybe another 2 or 3 miles down the road, which will take you 2 or 3 miles will take you like 3-4 hours, and that's 3-4 hours there with 3-4 hours back. And so it's a space of like, okay, hey, everybody else can use the vehicles and the cars and whatnot, but you can't. Everybody else can kind of like get rides to here and there, but you can't, because you can't replace the gas. So because you can't replace the gas, you can't go nowhere. So you're kind of stuck. And then being stuck, it's like, okay, it's furthermore pushing that space of being unwanted, being a burden, and it's like, bruh, get out. Get out. And it's very subtle though. Again, it's not blatant in your face. It's just like, oh well, the gas and everything. So, we gotta, and we work and everything, and this could be cleaned up, and you could put this away, and you could put this up, and I was gonna fix that, and I was gonna fix that, and I was gonna put this up, and it's not. And even in that, there's a level of like you understanding certain things that are going on. Like, Abba will reveal to you what's going on in their heart. Abba will reveal to you certain things that they've done and certain things that they've done against you. But that does not give you the right to sit there and act in a space of entitlement, to take things out on them, to say anything to them, to do anything to them. That does not give you the right to do that. And so basically just wrapping this all up. This was kind of long, but it was just kind of getting all of the angles and aspects of certain stuff. Like, it's just a very subtle way that things come in, and it's not this boo in your face. It's just not. And with that being said, this these are dynamics that we can point out, and these are dynamics we can call out, and these are dynamics we can implement things to correct. And it does not have to be this space of like beating them down, shaming them, or anything like that. You can call it out without being rude and disrespectful. You can call it out just like you can, hey, I can know who my Judas is. I can know who my Saul is, Saul trying to kill David. I can know who they are. I can know what they're trying to do. I can know their intentions. I can know their heart. I can know the things that they have done. I can still let them be close enough to kiss me. I can still let them uh be close enough to hug me. I can still wash their feet. I can still feed them. And this is a level and a space that you have to get to. I believe in one of the words, I can't remember, but one of the words I'm talking about, the boy and the dragon, there was a level of him overcoming and accepting his father blaming him for his mother's death, as well as his father trying to basically sabotage his destiny, that he overcame it in such a way that he didn't shun his dad for it. He didn't blame his dad for it, nor did he lash out or lash back at his dad for it. You get me? There's a level of that, even in that subtle way that it comes, that you don't just get to be rude and disrespectful. Like I said, beginning of this caveat here, you're still held to a standard to honor thy mother and father. You're still held to a standard to turn the cheek, forgive 70 times 7. You're still judge not lest ye be judged. You're still held to that standard. And being held to that standard, understand that the whole point of all of that, that subtleness, is for you to be able to get to a space to have a Judas that is close enough to kiss you, that is close enough to hug you, but you still feed them and you still wash their feet. That's the whole point. Holy Spirit, make me more like Jesus. Holy Spirit, make me more like Jesus. Every single day, or every single space that is placed in, is to grow you more like Jesus. Because what did Jesus do? He didn't outcast him. He didn't um shun him. He didn't not speak to him, or like, hey, you, I know you're gonna betray me. Come over here, do this thing for me. He won't be in like that. He still kissed him. He still hugged him. He still washed his feet. He still fed him. He still, all of the things. And he had to allow him to do that. And he had to be of service, even though he knew the intent that he had on him. And you have to be able to get to that space. So a lot of times that subtleness is also breaking a lot of things off of you, so you're able to navigate that, because the calling that you have, you're going to have a lot of people that are difficult to deal with, and you cannot just cut them off. You cannot just shun them. You cannot just not talk to them. You're going to have to navigate it. And that's part of the reason that you have to go through that. And it's part of the reason why you have to sit with it. It's part of the reason why you have to understand it, and have to understand that dynamic also, for you to kind of go back and speak for people that are behind you, in the space of speaking for them in that way as well. But the whole point is just to kind of highlight that space of it. Just is, it's not coming in a way that's just like boo. Is coming in a way that's real subtle, that it is hard to tell. And it's also hard to call out, because it's this space of, they could just deny it. And if they deny it, well, you don't necessarily have proof. um you don't necessarily have that hard evidence. Holy Spirit is bringing to me Igor, the mayor guy. He's like, I demand to see proof. I demand to see proof. And that's how they be. It's that I demand to see proof, because you don't necessarily have hard proof that they're doing these things. And a lot of times they gaslight to then bring up, well, you know, That's your only mom, that's your only father, that's your only family. They did all of these things for you, they sacrificed for you, all of the things, da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, you're supposed to do that as a parent, but whatever. You know, I do gotta take care of you when you're old, so it's kind of already built in there, you know. But whatever, you get me. So, um, yeah, that was it. That's all I would have for me to share with this. It's Our Unwritten Soul, I believe. Go watch it. It's so good. Um, but yeah, you could see that subtleness in it where it's just like you wouldn't know that on the surface. And that's how Mijay came in. She didn't understand that on the surface. She's thinking, oh, I just get to go to work. And then she gets to understand the dynamic, and it's like, oh. But yeah, remember Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. Like, comment, subscribe, do the thing. And remember, God is love, as well as, yeah, I'll be back on the next video. So, ciao.